Didn't know you guys were watching. Guess what we're making today? Salsa. You guys surprised me. I didn't mean to eat in front of you. I'm just trying out some salsa that we made. And I'll tell you, it came out very, very good. In fact, I'm getting ready to make another batch. Why don't you guys grab a cup of coffee? Hey, something to snack on or whatnot. Pull a chair on up and hey, we'll see how it's done. Hey, welcome back to Yankee, Liv'n, Brad here. Made some salsa earlier and it came out so good. Well, we're going to do a double take and we're going to bring you along for the ride here. One thing about salsa and me, I've got to have chunky salsa. That's all there is to it. I don't like the sloppy, the really, so that's why I like fresh salsa much better. But if you're going to can it, I'll give you a few tips on how I do it and it still comes out pretty chunky. First of all, the very, very biggest tip I can give you is tomatoes. Start off with a good firm tomato, and I like to use, as you know before, Roma tomatoes or any kind of paste type tomato, but get the firmest, freshest ones you can get. If you start out mushy, you're not going to end up firm. That's almost like the guy that gets up in the morning and pulls his milk jug out of the refrigerator and sniffs it and it's a little on the sour side. He stuffs it back in there. Figures it might be good the next day. I'll bring you in a close-up here. I've got a couple tomatoes that have been all blanched and all ready to peel, and I'll show you how I do it. Okay, these last couple tomatoes I've got for the batch, they've been blanched in hot water and put into cold water. That's my first tip. Most people, when they put their tomatoes into cold water to peel, they take them out way too early. You got to bring that tomato down to the temperature it started at. Not still warm and all right to use because you can handle it with your fingers. It's going to get mushy. So make sure that you take that tomato and get it nice and cold. These are nice and cold right here. Anyways, I put the cross on it like everybody does and whatnot. And I try not to handle the tomato all that much. In fact, I'm going to probably do a lot of things that a lot of people don't do when it comes to this. I haven't even cut the core out yet. Big reason. Some of these cores in here aren't all that tough, but they are firm and it holds up in the sauce. So I like to cut my tomato in half. See what we're working with. If I've got a tomato that's got a lot of loose stuff in it, I'm usually doing this over by the sink. We're just doing it here for demonstrations. I will squeeze that out and get rid of it right then and there and just keep the flush. That's all there is to it. So anyways, this one here is a little firm in the center, so I'm just going to take it over, cut a quick little notch right at the core, and that's going to help me with the peels. And as you can see, they're not coming off, just sliding off like a lot of people's are, because if you get it to that point, your tomato is really too mushy. You take that out, you still end up with a nice firm tomato. Let's get this one done. You know, like I say, this can be done many, many, many different ways, but this is my favorite way only because it keeps the tomatoes nice and firm. See, I got a nice firm tomato. It's not mushing up, it's not all over the board here. Okay, this is one of the keys that I do. I dice it. I don't slice it, I don't put it in chunks or anything like that, and I do it this way first, and you can feel it. If a tomato is a little bit softer, make your chunks a little bit bigger. If it's nice and firm, you can get away with going a little smaller. Okay? Bring it across about a 1/2 inch chunks. Remember, you're going to end up with about 3/8 inch chunks when you get done. Let's get that in there. Do the same thing to this one. Whoops, you missed a little peel on that one. How did I do that? Must have been your fault. You guys are watching. That's all there is to it. There. Okay, as you can see, it's chunks. It's not a mush or anything like that. If you start off with mushy tomatoes, don't expect to have chunky style when you get done. Alright, cut the end off on that one. That one's a little bit on the hard side. We're going to go right down through the center. Come right down through. Once again, peel it. Yeah, they don't peel as great if you leave them in as long, but like I say, you're rewarded with a nice, firm tomato. All right, we'll do this last one, and then we got to get this going here. And by the way, I've got a couple books here that I like to recommend, that I fall back on anyways. And this isn't really a recipe per se. Okay, anyways, let me take this over. We're going to put it in the pot. In fact, why don't I just bring the pot over here? Let me rinse my hands off first. Alright, here we go. This pot is way too big for what I really need. But I'll tell you, the reason why I am doing it is because when you're doing anything, sauces, tomatoes that bubble or anything like that, slop around as you're stirring them and whatnot, use something a little bit higher. Gives you nice sides. The worst thing you can do is start putting covers on things when you're cooking things down, especially because you're trying to cook it down, you're trying to get the water out of it for a sauce or whatnot, and a cover just does not help. So let's put you down here, Mr. Tomatoes. Take this over to the sink. I've got about 16 cups of tomatoes there. And why do I have 16 cups? Well, I'll show you my secret recipe. It's Mrs. Wage's seasoning. I'll tell you, a lot of people are going to say, oh, those chemicals and blah, 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 blah. Well, I'll let you know, there's no chemicals in this whatsoever. All this is dehydrated vegetables, seasoning, and salt. And when I mean seasoning, we're talking spices and whatnot. We're not talking any hidden glutens or whatever, chemicals or whatnot. It's probably one of the best seasonings on the market as far as no chemicals and stuff. So that's what I base mine with. I do add some other stuff. I only add this is because it's a good balance. You don't have to have a lot of seasoning on hand of the various different Mexican varieties like cilantros and like that. And by the way, I'm not a big fan of cilantro. This has got just enough seasoning in it to suit my taste. So anyways, this does 16 cups. I'm also going to put in about 1.5 cups of fresh peppers. 3 different kinds of peppers in here, 1 hot, and some onion. And the reason why I do that, this helps keep it a little chunkier too. It does not call that in the recipe, but I've done some research and whatnot. If you do add about 1.5 cups in here, you add a little bit more vinegar. The recipe calls for 1/2 cup. I put 3/4 cup, so we're covered. I also put just a little bit of lemon juice. Anyways, let me get back to the stove. We'll get this mixed up and I'll give you an idea how it goes together. Okay, I've taken the vegetables, put about 1 tablespoon of water in that 1.5 cups of vegetables. I'm not trying to boil the heck out of them. I just want to cook them just a little bit. I want to give them a little bit of a starch. Okay, in this pot over here we have our tomatoes and our seasoning mix and our vinegar. And I've got that mixed in. We're getting ready to bring that up to temp. But like I said, I wanted to give these vegetables here just a head start. They're almost there. I want the onions just starting to translude. I don't want them cooked. I just want to get them just started. Alright, they're just about there. One of the things I like to do in this, and this helps add a little bit more acid also, in these vegetables here to help keep them a good brightness and whatnot, I'll throw in just a little bit, maybe 1.5 tablespoons of lemon juice. And that kind of soaks into those veggies and it just kind of helps keep them bright. When you, helps keep them in the pan too, I guess. When you can, have you ever noticed a lot of your stuff gets a little dull in color and whatnot? And sometimes, not always, but depending on what recipes you're using and stuff, sometimes you can brighten that up just with a little bit of citrus acid of some sort. Okay, that is pretty much done. Okay, I'm going to bring that over to my tomatoes. Dump her right in there. We're going to bring our canner back over on the side a little bit. That's all hot and it's got our jars in it. We'll bring this over to this burner and get this started. Alright, as I was telling you before about handling your tomatoes and stuff, this is another important part. Don't get in there and whip them around and whatnot. I like using this here. It's kind of like a spatula, Chinese spatula. I like going underneath the tomatoes. I'll try to do this left-handed so you can see what I'm doing. I like to bring them up and just turn. Up and turn. Up and turn. Kind of flatten them out again. Let them come up to another bubble again. What you're doing here is follow the directions on Mrs. Wages, and that'll be your best bet. But what you're doing here is you're just trying to bring them up to a boil, bring them back down to a simmer, and cook them for about 8 to 10 minutes. Here again, do not overcook them. Get them right off, and else you'll have a lot soupier and a lot mushier style salsa. And trust me, that is not what I want. I will get some of the other salsa that I've got out a little bit later toward the end, and we'll dip a few chips in there like I did earlier. It is good. Okay, while I'm waiting for that to come up, I'm going to bring you over and show you a couple things. Alright, I don't normally endorse any products at all, but I'll give you my 3 key things that I like when I'm canning. And everybody knows the different ball books. This is just one of them. This one here is Blue Book of Preserving. I mean, there's many of these besides the main book and whatnot. But my all-time favorite book, believe it or not, is a book called Putting By. Okay? Putting By. It was written by 2 or 3 ladies back in the 70s. Okay? When a lot of the canning stuff started changing here and there and whatnot, and no one was really paying much of attention to it. Yeah, we are in the 2016, and yes, this has been updated many times throughout the years, so yeah, you're still safe. It has all kinds of recipes, all kinds of techniques. That's the main thing that I like about this book. It's not so much the recipes, it's the different techniques that they use for how they get from point A to point B and have a nice recipe and whatnot. And probably one of my biggest other well, go-tos is a channel named Linda's Pantry. You've heard me say it before. I watch her channel religiously, and I might not make an awful lot of comments. I comment every now and then, but she has some awesome recipes, and I like the way that she teaches. She kind of lets you kind of go your way. She basically shows you how to do it, the techniques and the various different ways, but also preaches to find your own information on various different things, and it's exactly what you should do. All right, let's give this a couple more minutes, and then I'm going to bring it over and get the canning stuffs ready. You've seen all that before. I'll get it all canned up to the last couple jars, and then we'll go from there. All right, welcome back. Grab a jar. Like I always say, dump it back in the pot, not on your arm. Okay. Jar. Funnel. Product. Bring that product up from the bottom. Get some nice thick stuff. One inch on this. 1 inch headspace. You really don't need to do any burping or stirring on this. This is pretty. If you feel like you have to, go ahead. Remember, you're canning your jars, I'm canning mine. It's all on how what you feel safe about doing. Wipe with a little vinegar. Get your lid. Come on. Good job. Lid. Cover. And one of the most important parts right here. Just finger tight, guys. Let's do one more. And I'll get this filled so we can get this going here. Jar. Funnel. Get some nice thick product. So this is my second batch. Ooh, we got it right up there that time. Yep, right to it. Okay, vinegar. Little paper towel. You know, kind of inspect your lids at the same time. Anytime that you handle one of these jars, let's put it that way. That's my favorite way of doing it. Anytime I handle a jar, I look it over for cracks, look over the top, feel it, see if there's any chips in it, any imperfections or whatnot. Anytime, and that means when you're canning or when you're taking them out of the dishwasher and storing them away, check them then. Check them every time that you handle them in your hands, and that way you're more apt to find a problem before it becomes a problem. Alright guys, you don't need to hear me yakking about this. Let me get the rest of this done and we'll bring you back. Alright, welcome back guys. We got the canner going and it'll be done in 35-40 minutes, and you don't need to see me pulling jars out of a canner and sticking them over here. I do have a jar we did earlier here. As you can see, it's nice and chunky. One more tip for you guys. Hey, when we open these jars, especially salsa and other things that we're going to store things in there, a lot of people buy these, and this is a bought one, and it's $5 or $6 for these lids here. And boy, I'll tell you, you know, Yankee, well, ingenuity and frugalness, and well, there's many other lids that fit that, and I'll show you a couple of them. This is a typical mayonnaise jar. Fits right on there nice. Save your mayonnaise tops. Peanut butter. This size peanut butter, you gotta be careful with it, but that's a mid-sized jar. Fits right on there, perfect. Free. One of my favorites, grated cheese container. Fits right on there. You can put things that you want to make up your own rubs or seasonings and whatnot. Stick them in there. You use it for dipping it out, shaking it on or whatnot. Okay? Those are all things, and those all come free. Just some little tips and whatnot. Now where's the one I had on there? Yeah, this one right here. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed the show today. Wherever you guys are in your neck of the woods, be it morning, noon, or night, have yourself a good one. Take care now.